I will start with my own, let's say, sexual mysticism, or in introduction into sexual mysticism, because my past came very much from sex being a very conditioned thing. I even worked as a sex worker for 2 years. And in that time, I would say I had no idea, which is not necessarily the case, but for me, it definitely was the case. I had no idea about sexuality being an individual thing. I couldn't differentiate between my unique, like soul sexuality and something that is compatible with, as a sex worker, almost everybody. So in that way, even though I wouldn't say that sex work is necessarily a problematic thing, for me, it had the problematic aspect of making me blind, because I had a huge sexual ego, like, well, I have no problem with sex. And it made me blind for my wounding and for how much I kept being hidden from myself during sex and also in the rest of my life. So after sex work and after this kind of confusion with conditioning, I went into a very deep inquiry, what is my sexuality? And I recovered a lot. And that's why I'm so grateful to Tantra and slow sex and all of that, because it was completely the antidote of really slowing down and really sensing and dropping into myself. And that was a game changer. It didn't only embody my sexual life, I re-embodied my whole aliveness for my whole life. And in that way, and then me going into trauma research and embodiment and bodywork practice and yoga, etc. It made me very curious or aware of somatic mysticism. Like if you ask me about spirituality, it's in your knee. It's in the soles of your feet. Spirituality is not up there in our 13th chakra or wherever. It's not the love and light above. It's the shadow, the trauma, it is the charge, it's the superpower inside. It's everything that we consider to be taboo or to be for the outsiders or for the wrong ones. So that is Tantra, like go into the shadow and unleash love and light from there by going into your body, going into your energy, going into your rage in the very first place. So I was introduced to somatic mysticism being my kind of combination or unity of re-embodying myself and at the same time walking in my nervous system through the whole cosmos, through the whole universe. And I know, like when I started sharing about somatic mysticism, I was like, ladies and gentlemen, I experienced something crazy. I experienced that I can drop into my nervous system and then like the universe opens up, like gods are visible to me to some extent, or have visions or intuition. And people were like, yeah, Ilan, tell us something new. We know that. So I'm very thrilled talking about spiritual and mystic contents, because I know it's just a matter of our culture if we share around these things. And then all of us are genius in these realms. They are just not educated or encouraged in this culture. That's somatic mysticism. And then I was introduced to sexual mysticism. And that's a story, and I'm super grateful for the opportunity to share that, because it's also vulnerable for me. And it's important for me, also kind of warning. I was introduced to sexual mysticism by falling in love with a man that I trust more than I've ever trusted somebody before. It was really something important and healing for me, because before that I was running around like, man, sorry, I don't trust you. No. And I had very rough breakups of relationships before. And we had very, very interesting sexual encounters, like very deep merging, very deep listening into our nervous systems. So I could say the sex became that much my sex. That, okay, let me play around in words, or fumble around in words, that I went through the matrix of sex. It's like I went to a core of sex, and something was like, this is not a core, it becomes a birth channel for something that is different. It's like, it's on the other side. It's like after I was aware of having sex and then I wasn't aware of having sex. And I'm not talking about mind-blowing orgasms or any kind of crazy performance stuff. I'm just talking about, there was a level of willingness of me to be silent and to listen to myself in a way that the setting of sex became asexual or became something cosmic or mystic or something where I was deeper connected to something bigger than me and something else. And that is the critical point for now, something else than me and my partner. And the crucial thing I want to share here is my introduction into sexual mysticism led to a breakup with this man. And I have to recognize, acknowledge, for him and for me, that was traumatic. He wanted a relationship and I wanted sexual mysticism. And sexual mysticism, as well as mysticism, it kills your personality. So sexual mysticism, even though it is something that might be pulling you or drawing you towards it, it might be calling you. It is sacrificing pleasure. And it is using pleasure almost as an instrument for inner destruction. It's like let me talk about me, otherwise I'm so busy or so bossy. Sorry, I will fix my microphone for the moment for maybe a better, if I'm running for a good orgasm or for a good sexual performance, or if I'm having sex in order to strengthen the bond or the love with my partner after a conflict, it won't get mystic, period. It's something super nourishing, super healing. It produces love. It's the best bonding for relationships. Yes, yes, yes. And it isn't mystic. Because mysticism and spirituality in those terms, it starts when there is something of I sacrifice my habits, I sacrifice my ego. And I know a lot about the death of the sexual ego because I had a boom, boom, boom sexual ego and it wasn't fun. Like it died and died and died. And every time it was so embarrassing. And that's like, there is no way around. So my pre-warning around mysticism is not so much about you destroying your habits because you are suffering from your inner cage, from yourself anyway, where pleasure can destroy that. And we can go into more practical terms how that can look in sex or in somatic body work. It's not so much about me it's not me warning you from what happens to you. It's me warning you from what happens to your habits of coziness and nourishment and reassurance and safety and security and certainty in relationships and you for your partner. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman or hetero or homosexual or non-binary or whatever. It's just, it doesn't matter. All of us have bondings of give me safety, please love me. And all of us, like almost all of us, I never met somebody else, are conditioned around using also our sexuality in this manipulative game with the outer world. So if I would have to define mysticism in a general term, it is the outer world dies and gets reborn in the more real way in your inner world. And that is why you have to leave what you think is you. And that is why you have to leave that it is about you and your partner. And that is why you have to leave your partner. And that might trigger the hell out of both of you. So that's my promotion clip for sexual mysticism. Let's stop this talk. It's a nightmare. Let's just have sex. No mystic stuff. No. So yeah, that's the warning part.